Peace. Dolla50. Welcome to Stimulus Checks USA. Let me fix the lighting. The lighting is a little bit off. That's a little bit better. Welcome to Stimulus Checks USA. Stimulus Checks USA. I'm expressing the need for stimulus checks quite naturally. Stimulus Checks USA. You see my United States flag. I'm consistent. You see my YouTube hat. I'm consistent. I'm consistent with the orderly way of things in a pandemic extreme where the Capitol building was invaded and we don't have a freedom of speech right in its proper context right now. So I'm going live to express my liberties as a United States citizen. I'm expressing my liberties as a United States citizen in an effort to get stimulus checks immediately. We got people that's been vaccinated and don't have food on the table. I don't know if that's a concern of everybody's, because some people are well off. Some people don't have to worry about food on their table. They don't have to worry about a stimulus check. So they comfortable until they hear me voice the difference of the citizens that have been vaccinated and miserable. This situation where stimulus checks are being afforded and misery is in the same place is not cool. I'm a hip hop artist. I'm a hip hop producer. For us to be vaccinated, I haven't been vaccinated yet, but for us to have the vaccine and be miserable, it's not cool. The government needs to know this. Until this moment, they didn't know this. Today is Father's Day. Today is the beginning of summer. The beginning of summer, I have to remember to make a notation in my Bible where I keep track of the 4 seasons. I have to remember to make a notation in the Bible. Usually I don't have a Bible all the time because I have people approach me in a way mathematically that challenges me having a Bible all the time. I don't think they're comfortable with me having a Bible. I'm a little flexible with having a Bible than the average person. So without knowing whether they like me having a Bible or not, I just don't have a Bible ordinarily unless I have a specific reason to have one, like stimulus checks for a reason, for one. I use a Bible to create a balance with stimulus checks, a platform. I use a Bible to create a platform with stimulus checks. I haven't been doing it recently, but I usually have hearts, clubs, diamonds, spades. I usually have the 4 seasons: summer, fall, winter, spring. I have that order. And just so happens today is the beginning of summer. So the suit of hearts would be summer. And today is Father's Day as well. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers of the world. This is a world broadcast. This is not just American. Today's Father's Day is the beginning of summer. I'm addressing the world with this. Where it applies, of course, because stimulus checks aren't global. Stimulus checks are local in a sense that the world may not have stimulus checks. They may not have the ability to have stimulus checks. Maybe a poor country. Anything could be wrong within reason of having a stimulus check or not having a stimulus check. We're lucky. We hard workers. We manage to have Social Security and things like that, and the government, which is we have a rich government. In case you don't know, our government is a rich government. We have a government that's well off, and to perpetuate that, I have a Bible that when the stimulus checks are in the process of being issued or in the high demand, I use my Bible to create a level playing field so that we don't run out of money, so that we have options or resources to distribute monies. I try and keep a perpetual consistency with the Bible that doesn't hinder the process of stimulus checks. You know, I'm not scaring the government out of money, you know, with a Bible. A Bible is a Bible. You know, don't think at any point when you see me with a Bible, when you see me on Twitter perpetuating the process of stimulus checks, using the Bible in a way that it may be intimidating in a way that no one else is that consistent. It's intimidating in that sense because if they told you that they didn't have the money, I would show up with the Bible saying, you know, I know you got the money because I put it here. You know, I don't have the money, but I create a platform where they can easily have the money. It's a process that and I haven't been paid for my process. I assist the government and it's orderly running all the time in the pandemic and the pandemic extreme. I assist the government. I'm determined to have a hip hop headquarters, and the funding it may need to come from Egypt. Egypt particularly because Egypt was invaded. Egypt was looted from the royal libraries to the treasures to the graves. It was looted, and the storyline is in the same place. I have a storyline that if I had a hip hop headquarters, then dead people in the museum won't exist because I would speak out about it. That would be one of my concerns. That would be a major concern because I wouldn't feel comfortable with having a hip hop headquarters and, you know, my family in the museum on display, you know, based on being robbed and looted and taken advantage of. That just wouldn't be how I would, you know, have my heritage displayed on display like that. You know what I mean? I just wouldn't agree with that with a hip hop headquarters. So it may be political, it may be some type of form of a challenge present, but nothing major, nothing out of the norm. You know, just within reason of going home one day. You know, you want to take into account the stimulus check process is one thing, but the stimulus check process can't excuse the United States for its ways and actions. They have to go to court one day. They have to go to court. And when they go to court, it's going to be a fair trial. It's not going to be a kangaroo court. Because we've been robbed. We've been robbed of our family, of our heritage, of our way of doing things. We've been robbed of our powers as African people. We've been robbed. And the only way to correct that or reverse that process that's being held in place in the museums is to return the treasures and the dead remains. You know, you rob graves, you far off. The treasures and the dead remains back to Egypt. So you have a way of distracting someone from talking in place. You have a way of distracting someone from saying what they're saying in place. Let me give you an example. If I'm saying what I'm saying right now about return the treasure to Egypt and having hip hop headquarters and the two may clash, but not impossibly clash, but clash in a way that it would be a concern all the time with our family or heritage and way of life inside of a museum on display based on being robbed and looted. When you have something that far out of context, getting funding from the government for hip hop headquarters is not in its proper context, not in the usual context. You wouldn't go to somebody that robbed your home, put it in the museum, and never allowed you to leave mathematically because allowing you to remember what has been done is a factor. I bear the United States flag, but the United States flag is limited in this scope. In this scope, the United States flag is only representing discovering America, conquering the Indians, taking us from Africa and bringing us here not in this proper context, in violation of our humane rights as human beings. We were violated. So just saying that to say, they have the ability to distract you with that information while you're talking. When I'm talking, somebody can easily blank out my mind, if I attempt to, hold a conversation based on stimulus checks and the graves that were robbed and being funded by the government for the hip hop headquarters. It gets intricate. It's intricate. It's of an intricate conversation. Saying that to say, well, if you have a conversation like that based on perpetuating stimulus checks while we in this situation, you want the option to have your stimulus checks, and our scheduled court date is what it is. We're going to court one day. It's no doubt about it. There has been no reparations. There's been no form of repayment or effort to allow us to go home and visit Africa, Egypt. No school trips or anything that would suggest that there's effort being made to correct the wrongs. There are wrongs that have been made. So when these stimulus checks are being distributed, they can't give you money past correcting us being brought here. They can't give you money past correcting the Indians being slaughtered and held on reservations. They can't give you money from a stimulus check past the pandemic. They brought us here out of one situation and exposed us to disease. They can't give you a stimulus check outside of the realm of oppression. And saying, I would like to say, pause that for a moment. When you have the situation with the vaccine, I have vaccine and business. I have vaccine stimulus business cards where on one side is a vaccine portion of the business card, and on the other side is a stimulus check portion of the business card. What I sought to do is to perpetuate the equality and fairness that has been robbed from us, along with stimulus checks and vaccine being distributed simultaneously. How would I do that? Well, to guarantee that there's justice, equality, and this court process in its proper context, the stimulus checks be issued regularly, recurring, of course. Recurring payments would allow the system to breathe. It would allow a regular court process to be in place in a way that the pandemic is present, so court is present. In a way that the vaccine is present, so the stimulus check is equally present. So what you have is a cycle that's currently in the process of being implemented based on me establishing that process. I am the originator of that process. Stimulus checks being issued the same time vaccines are issued, and so on and so forth, within reason of recurring payments being a way of things. We don't have any guarantees, but that would be our guarantee. We don't have reparations right now. We don't have reparations. Our reparations can be ignored while the demand for stimulus checks are currently present. They can't ignore our needs as people. Our needs as people needs to be current, because it's no way you're going to bring me here from Egypt and I forget why I'm here, how I got here, any histories or attachments to being here, which was robbed and redirected and put in museums, and give me a stimulus check. I'm sure I'm going to take a stimulus check when it's available, within reason of it being a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. Sure, I'm going to take the stimulus check until that futuristic court appearance, where currently the Capitol building is surrounded with fencing. You're not allowed to speak freely at the Capitol building as you once were. Saying that to say, our rights are at bay currently. We have constitutional rights that are being challenged in the context of where our rights are afforded. Our rights and laws are in place at the Capitol building in a way that they passed laws at the Capitol building and they blocked off the Capitol building. You can't exercise the same rights and liberties that they granted to you some time ago in time. So right now, we had a challenging time with the pandemic and the Capitol building being blocked off simultaneously. How are we going to get past this? Right now, I'm doing a live broadcast, and the area of the planet Earth is 196,940,000 square miles. This information was brought to my attention mathematically by the nations of gods and earths and the 120th degree on the internet. I learned of this on the internet, that the area of the planet Earth was 196,940,000 square miles. Nobody told me that. I got on the internet and I studied the nations of gods and earths, the 120 degree and 120 degrees, and I didn't study them in its totality. I studied them in a way that I would grasp 196,940,000 square miles and leave. Because with 196,940,000 square miles in mind, the 120s would manifest. The 120s would manifest with the understanding of 196,940,000 square miles. That was my understanding at the time then, and that's my understanding now. So anybody challenging me having access to the 120s of the nations of gods and earths would be exposed to the elements of the nations of gods and earths. I wouldn't be a 5%er. I would be an 85%er based on their estimation of having that type of knowledge. That complete of a person, I would be at 85%. I'm not going to go into depth or detail what 85% represents of the population. I'm not going to go into detail with the 5% of the population and the 10% of the population that's left from 85% of the population, 5% of the population, and the 10 remaining percent of the population. I'm not going to go into depth or detail. I don't have a full understanding as a man, as a black man, of the 120s. Not being distracted by the 120s, just giving you some type of idea where I retrieved the area of the planet Earth information calculations from. Now, saying that to say, we have a court process in place in the United States. The court process would suggest that if the Capitol building was blocked off and this live broadcast was what it was, then my liberties as a United States citizen would be in no less of a place mathematically. I would have mathematical rights as opposed to physical rights of actually being at the Capitol. If I was physically at the Capitol, they would hear my concerns. I would pass out my stimulus check business cards, vaccine business cards, and my information would transfer through the mainstream. I wouldn't be saying as much exercising my liberties of freedom of expression at the Capitol building. The employees of the Capitol building would hear my concerns. They would see the business cards. The information would transfer fluently. I've seen it. I've done it before. The information would transfer fluently. But since it's not in its proper context with the fencing around the Capitol building, stimulus checks are on their way. I'm just going to say they're on their way. We're at a point where stimulus checks are on their way and vaccines are present, and everybody's miserable that depend on stimulus checks. They don't have food, but they have vaccines. They don't have stimulus checks, but they have vaccines. So, saying that to say, the Band-Aid on the gaping wound is historical at times. The Band-Aid on the gaping wound it could be a problem at times because there's no recurring payments, where every time there's a demand for a stimulus check, we go through this experience physically, emotionally. Are we going to get a stimulus check this time? What's going to happen with this? The bills, they're kicking people out of their homes. They're not making sure people have food. It's limited to a degree. There are some situations where if you have EBT status, you may have access to food, But without EBT status and everything in its proper context during the pandemic, you don't have the guarantees of having food every day. You don't have the guarantees of stimulus checks providing, giving you the ability to have food. So food is a concern, shelter is a concern, transportation is my concern, and Nancy Pelosi directly is involved in affording me resources to assist in my transportation, my resources being afforded. I had a situation where I assisted in the distribution process of the vaccine. I assisted in the distribution process of the stimulus checks. Now, I haven't been paid. I haven't been acknowledged to any degree of my assistance in any of these processes. I haven't been afforded any monies, but FedEx has. UPS has been afforded. United States Postal Service has been afforded money. They set money aside for Moderna. They set money aside for Pfizer. Pfizer is a foreign organization. They set money aside for Johnson & Johnson. And when they set the money aside, I responded immediately saying money has been set aside for anyone assisting in the distribution of the vaccine. And I'm formally requesting through Nancy Pelosi that I receive monies, funding for my participation in the distribution of the vaccine. I personally did that, and I didn't get any results. I wasn't paid, compensated in a way that my 13th Amendment abolishment of slavery rights consistent with the United States Constitution guidelines were a factor. Our constitutional rights and protections against working without being paid are rights established up to date. No one is to work without getting paid. There is no such thing as free labor in the United States, so on and so forth. I didn't contact the OSHA, Department of Labor, but what I did was I contacted Nancy Pelosi. I contacted Nancy Pelosi repeatedly, and it's my understanding she has some type of idea that I'm requesting funding. It's my understanding. Now, I don't know when she's going to respond, so not knowing when she's going to respond, I go to places like Chicago Motor Cars and I attempt to purchase a vehicle on my own behalf, knowing that whenever she catches up her paperwork or her process at the Capitol building, I'm in no less of a place. I shouldn't have to be inconvenienced by her doings as an employee at the Capitol building, as opposed to saying I want to purchase a channel car. You know, this is big news to the YouTube world. Nobody ever does that. I'm a creator. I'm a YouTube creator. I create innovative ways to compensate for delays or redirections on YouTube. What I do is I go to YouTube as a YouTuber and I create hip hop videos. My hip hop videos, I advertise cars, real estate, and so on and so forth. I advertise with the use of hip hop as a catalyst. Hip hop is my tool. My expertise is advertising, using hip hop to advertise cars and real estate and and stimulus checks and vaccines. You know, I use hip hop, my ability to create on YouTube to generate money. Well, I haven't been awarded the money based on being redirected in the process. I've been redirected as black marketing, tampering with my music, it's black marketing, you know, waiting to hear my every word to see exactly what their stake is and what I'm saying. It's black market. So I haven't killed the black market, but I have to be prepared to kill the black market where the black market may be attempting to kill American citizens. If I caught the black market attempting to kill American citizens, then surely I would be prepared to kill the black market. Just so they're not comfortable with killing the American citizens. I'm making sure they understand me clearly. The black market can understand me. They may have tapped into my resources as a hip hop artist and producer. They may have done that. But once it gets deadly, then I step in. I'm in control. You won't violate my information with some black market composed by you, and then I'm in danger also. I will retaliate instantly. You will understand me now. You will understand my every concern now. There is no black market. You no longer exist. I'm taking you out of the equation of your existence. There's no market for tampering with my information. I have that power as a United States citizen to make a citizen arrest if necessary. Don't be intimidated by my words. My words are guaranteed. My words are the words of every American. You have no right to tamper with my information, and I have the right to arrest you right now. Mathematically, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. If you can't afford an attorney, one will be afforded to represent you. Do you understand your rights? The black market. I'm not playing.
Hashtag Judge Janine. And joining me now with reaction to my open and more, Congressman Jim Jordan.